gush a little bit here and there. I'm having a fanboy moment, so please excuse. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'll take you back a few years, and I'm going to start with a little story. It's 1991. A 16-year-old boy is 2 months away from his 10th standard ICSE final exams. He gets a call, and this is from the under 16 training camp, and he's been welcomed to join this camp. And this boy tentatively goes to his parents to ask him for permission. Parents, of course, deny him, saying that, nope, you need to concentrate on your studies. He turns around and tells his parents, hey, listen, football is my passion. So even if you do not allow me, my entire focus is going to be on this. I'm going to flunk my exams. And this guy goes to the training camp. He travels by unreserved trains. He washes his own clothes. And the only thing that kept this boy ticking, the only thing that kept him going at this point in time was his dream for playing for this country. And this boy then went on to serve as India's longest serving captain for 16 years. He won the Arjuna Award in 1998, the Padma Shri in 2008. It's an absolute pleasure to introduce you to Baichung Bhutia. Let's hear a word of applause for him, please.
Thank you.
All right, Baichung, now you've been India's longest serving captain. As a captain, what was your approach? How did you go about motivating your players, especially at a time when football was looked at as, as a stepchild to maybe cricket? How did you go about doing this?
Before answering to you, I'll just little info on the points you put. In fact, the camp was for the under 16 India. So that's the reason why I took a risk to drop my class 10 ICSE exam for a year and go for my first India camp, which I got selected playing through Subroto. So for me, I think just getting a call for India to play under 16, it wasn't playing, it was a selection trial. So that excitement was so much. My ICSE exams were just 2-3 months away. I had to travel all the way from NJP, which is Siliguri, down to Kerala, Trivandrum, which was the longest train, I think, journey even till today, 3 days, 3 nights.
3 days and 3 nights.
So just to play for India, I think that excitement. So that was the reason why I dropped, and my parents were not happy because I was losing 1 year of my studies. So I said, anyways, if I sit now, I'm going to fail because this is something which is going to come in my head. So that's how I went and went and joined the camp. So that was the journey. Coming back, I think in terms of captain and leadership, I think the most important thing for any captain is to win the trust of the players. I think that is very, very important, because if you don't have trust, the loyalty and faith from your players, then I think you don't really lead, and you don't, whatever you're trying to put across, then they don't really have that honesty and faith, then I don't think you will have that respect. So I think to gain that trust, I think you need to also perform on the field and off the field. I think on the field you need to be, as hardworking, or even be an example to them on the field. Off the field, few small things like there are meetings, there are, timings, you go be on the time as a captain. You need to be an example. So I think those are the few important things where as a captain you lead and be an example. So that's where once you have a trust and faith of your team, then I think whatever you say, they trust you and, do it honestly and sincerely.
Lead by example, absolutely. You underline that. We've seen that in our sports world many times, not just in football, but in cricket as well. All right. Now, we've got a short video for you, and we're going to play this. Can I have my console please bring up the first video? This is a kick. This is a football shot you're going to be seeing mostly in, the European clubs. This is one of the first times I'd seen this kind of a kick, this kind of a shot being played in Indian football. So have a look at this, and then you tell us what was going through your mind at this point in time. What gave you that kind of courage to play the shot? audacious, outrageous, what can I call it? What do you see, what do you feel when you look at that?
So
boy?
that goal was for JC. I was playing for JCT, and this was the first time I think Indian football was changing, and we started National Football League, which now in today's world it's ISL, Indian Super League. So this was I think in '96 when the first national league had started in India, and the cable network had come into India. That was the first time Star Sports were showing Indian football live to just not India but across some of the few Asian countries as well. So I think it was a great time and great first year. I had a wonderful team with some of the biggest names of Indian football was signed by JCT. My hero Ayam Bijayan was in the same team. So we went on to win the first national league with JCT.
Right, Vijayan also has been one of the legends of Indian football, just like you. Now, um, does anyone in the audience know what was his nickname when he was playing for the Indian team? For instance, Milkha Singh was called the Flying Sikh. What was Baichung Bhutia called? Anyone? All right, no problem. He was called the Sikkimese sniper. Now, but the thing is, the strange thing is, Bachung was not always a centre forward player. He was not always a striker. He actually started off as a midfielder. And Bachung, this is where I would want you to share your thoughts with us. A lot of our leaders here, they are serving as maybe chief information security officers, but they take on additional roles. They take on additional responsibilities. They could take on compliance today. They can take on regulation tomorrow. So how did you make this transition when you decided to become that, okay, I have been given an opportunity, I'm a midfielder, but now I'll have to be a striker?
No, I think for me to play as a midfielder, our generation of people would realize that our biggest hero, and for me as well, one of the biggest inspiration in my footballing life was Maradona. And for the first time when we saw football on television was 1986 World Cup. And Maradona had such a huge influence in a lot of, just not me, but our generation of players. So that's why I started playing midfielder, because I always wanted to create goals for strikers, for other player to score. And that's how I started. And in fact, when I signed for East Bengal as a professional player, I did play as a attacking midfield. So striker happened when I went to Santosh Trophy for Bengal. I was playing for Bengal, and we Indian team had just signed a new manager, Mr. Rustam Akramov, who was from Uzbekistan. He had just won Asian Games gold medal with Uzbekistan, and India had signed him. So he had come to watch Santosh Trophy, and he was making a selection for the national team. So seeing me play, I think that's where he came after the semi-final match. He came and spoke to me saying that I would want you to come and debut for India, but not as a midfielder, but you need to start playing as a striker. That's where my, I think, journey started from midfielder to striker. So, and I was very, very happy. I think after that, I think it's a history. But yes, I think sometimes there are demands, there are coaches who think that, you could be utilized in different positions where the team benefits. And when he offered me to play striker, I was more than happy to, play striker. So that's how my journey as a striker happened from the national team onwards.
Right, great story there. Thank you for sharing that, Bachung. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me also tell you that we are going to open up for question and answers after a little bit of time. So keep your questions ready in your minds. Bachung will select the best questions, the ones he liked, and you're going to get a football signed from him right here live on the stage. Right, so keep those questions in your mind. We'll have them out with you in just a bit. All right, now, Bachung, moving on. You've played in high-pressure situations in India. Could you recall, which is that one moment where you felt extreme pressure, and how did you emerge out of it? And if you could share some of those tips with our leaders here.
So I don't think any tournament, any match is going to be a very easy match. I think every match is going to be difficult, whether you're playing, see, a SAF Cup, or you're playing Asia Cup qualifiers, or you're playing World Cup qualifiers, or you're playing Nehru Cup, Gold Cup finals, or you're playing a Federation Cup final, or any match. I think no match is going to be easy, and I don't think any opponents would, give you that opportunity. So every match is going to be difficult. Only for, I think, where I feel where we were a little bit under pressure was when we had a new coach, Mr. Bob Houghton, who came towards the end of my footballing career. And, when he came in, we had a schedule for next 3-4 years. And in the meeting itself, in the national team meeting with the players, I think he put a chart on the board saying that these are the tournaments we have for next 2 3 years, and he marked it which are the most important tournament. What are our targets? So 3 years ago itself, he said Asian Cup qualifiers is the biggest tournament for us. We have to qualify for Asia Cup, which India had not qualified for 24 years. For any footballer that plays in India, I think two of the biggest tournaments are World Cup and Asia Cup, because these are the only two tournaments where the biggest name of Asian footballers come and play. It's not even Olympics, because Olympics, the big names of world football don't go and play. It's under 23 tournament. All the countries that go and play, only 3 players above 23 go and play. So even Olympics for footballers are not so big. But Asia Cup and World Cup is two biggest tournament for any Asian footballers across Japan, Korea, or India. So I think that target was set. So everything was set for that next 3 years, that target to qualify. And we actually came of that AFC qualifiers, Asian Cup qualifiers. And then we all went to the finals. And the final, I think we knew that we've been preparing for 3 years. And this was the time we can't mess it up, because during that 3 years of preparation, the coaches try and experiment with different players. Young players are brought in, there are different players you experiment, so that the final tournament, which is the main tournament, you don't want to get it wrong. So they are main selected, the best ones go and play. And when the final happened, I think that final in Delhi, when we were in Ambedkar, was something that gave me a little bit too much, little pressure, because we've been preparing for 3 years and we are looking into making a history after qualifying. Thankfully, I think the game went very well. We had very early goals, which was scored, and we went on to win the finals against a very good side, Turkmenistan, who was very, very good, who's still a good footballing nation today. So that's where I think that particular match to qualify and the qualification for Asia Cup was slightly pressurized, because obviously we've been preparing for 3 years.
And how was the buzz within the team? Were you confident that you can make it?
Yes, I think for me it was something which I always dreamt of. World Cup was something which I always wanted to play. But if India did not ever play World Cup, at least Asia Cup was something which I wanted to play. After qualification, after we qualified, the Asia Cup was 2 years away, and I was not towards that age group where I'm towards, not on the younger side. So I was obviously fighting to stay fit, because I would have been 35 when Asia Cup happens. So I was just trying to stay fit and at least play Asia Cup, because we worked so hard. So yeah, I think the entire team was very thrilled and very excited.
Talking about staying fit, I've got to ask you this, Bajung. You're pushing 50, but you look a hell of a lot fitter than I do. What's your secret? I mean, what's some of your mantras that you would want to share with our audience here?
I think once you stop playing, you don't regularly work out and you keep traveling. So one thing I really do is control food. I don't eat very late. When I'm in Sikkim, I eat very early dinner, because Sikkim, it gets cold, it gets darker soon. So 6 o'clock, 6:30, I have my dinner, and by 8 o'clock, I'm off in the bed. Okay. The morning, I go for my, because with the age and thing, I don't do too much of running, but I do a lot of cycling, in the mountains when I'm there in Sikkim. But apart from that, I also live in Siliguri quite a lot because of a lot of work that's happening. So when I'm in Siliguri, I go to the gym when I can. But eating, I think, right is very, very important, I feel, because when you age, you don't get to be so fit and you can't work out so much. I think eating, controlling your food is something which is very, very important.
Understood. All right, now talking about Sikkim, audience, I mean, this is one interesting fact that you might want to know. 31% of India's elite level football players come from Manipur and Mizoram, and Sikkim also has a great football legacy. Now, what is it that the northeastern states are able to get right, and what is it that the rest of India is yet to do?
I think rest of India should stop focusing on being IT professionals and engineers and and bureaucrats. I think we need to start focusing on being sports person as well. I think one of the main reason, I think, in the Northeast is the culture, the environment. Because I grew up in an environment where only footballers played. My father, obviously I come from a village. My father was a panchayat. Those days, they used to call them mandals. So as a panchayat head, he used to organize a lot of village tournament, and I saw my father play. My eldest brother was a good footballer. So that environment was there. Wherever you went across Sikkim to different towns, different villages, only footballers played. So as a kid, we played because the community also had a lot of tournaments for kids as well as for seniors. So I think that culture was created. And that's why I think even till today, if you go to Manipur, the community plays a major role in terms of, organizing sports events and making a lot of kids play. So I think one of the reason is that we need to create that culture in other parts of the country, which is very, very important. That's just not uh, football, but I think as a country, we need to have a culture for sports, which slowly it's changing. A lot of young parents like me, I'm a parent as well. Now we are actually pushing our kids to play sports. So I run football academy, Baichung Bhutia football schools, and a lot of parents send their kids. Now, even in social media, we've seen a lot of, stories where they're trying to get kids out of the house to go and play. I think in our younger days, parents were, pulling our ears and getting us to come and study inside when you're playing out. So now parents are trying to push the kids out of the house to play sports. That's the kind of things that have changed. So yeah, I think we need to be more sporting as a nation. Just not be spectators and watching it, but also start playing.
And how do you do it with your kids? Which of your kids has taken to football?
My son plays football. He was in my football academy, so he's still a good player. I've got two daughters and one son. My elder ones are twins. They're gonna be 15 in April. My daughter is a swimmer. The girls started as a gymnast, but my elder one has given up gymnastics. Now she's gone into swimming. The younger one is playing basketball. So I'm very happy that they're very sporty and they love to play sports.
Lovely to know that. All right, I'll request Aditya to play up the next video as well. And, this is something that is, again, a concept that many of our audience members are going to connect to. Me, as a cricket fan, is also something that I'm able to connect to, and I'll tell you why. All right, audience members, I hope you've got your questions ready. We are going to open it up for questions real quick while we just wait for this video to
When
come
I
up.
signed for East Bengal, the club was known to not win Federation Cup, which is known as FA Cup. And we were a great team, but we never won a Federation Cup. And I came into the club, it had not won for quite many years. And I started playing it, and I played for East Bengal first 3 years. We just could not win. We had the best team in India that time, and still despite that, we used to go all the way, prepare for 6 months, win all 4 matches, go to the final, and final somehow we lose. And then I decided I really need to win this Federation Cup. I went to one of the best teams that time again, JCT, and they had the best players. And you won't believe we did everything right. Again, in the finals, we lost. So sometimes you lose despite preparing for 5-6 years. But you don't give up. You come back again. And then finally, when I came back to East Bengal, then I won it again. But I think football and sports is something which you look forward to it. There are a lot of good moments, there are a lot of bad moments, but you always look forward. That's what I've learned playing football, because I had great matches, I've had bad matches, but you go back, learn from your previous match, look forward and go on to win.
All right. And that's when, he turned East Bengal also into a winning team after that stint of struggle. Now, before you get there, Baichung, we are seeing you more on TEDx platforms than on the football field. How's this new career change been for you?
No, I think I've just done one TEDx, and I don't think I would be doing more TEDx
Why is
or
that?
any other TEDx at all. I'm more happy doing 101 and answering to people, because I think that's something which is more natural and which is more. It's not a prepared kind of a thing, so I think it comes out from the heart. So which is more, I think for me, I'm more happy to do a 101 or answer to audience's question.
Right.
Sometimes I think people get bored to hear the same story and all that stuff. So I think people would want to know they have a lot of things to know about Indian football and things like that. So it's good to actually know what they want to hear and what they want to ask and reply to those points.
Live one-on-one, absolutely. And we are going to make that happen today as well, Baichung. Now, the other thing that I wanted to say was, of course, this. I also love one of the IPL teams, which I'm not going to tell you which one. We've got the best players in it, but we never seem to win, right? So, what would you tell our leaders out here? They might be equipped with the best teams, but then they might not be, getting the right objectives or not hitting that kind of target that they really want. What would you say to them?
So yeah, this Federation Cup which I was talking about was something which, as my club was East Bengal. I started my career with East Bengal, and we had that thing of never winning it. It was like England not winning a major tournament, something like that with East Bengal as well. So we never won the Federation Cup. Then I moved to JCT, which had a great team with IMB Giant. We won the first National League, but we lost the Federation Cup even with JCT. We didn't win it. It was a knockout tournament. So I think these are part and parcel of the game, which you have to accept it. But some of the biggest uh, stories and inspiration comes from some of the greatest players. I think one of the biggest example is Lionel Messi. He's played 4 World Cups, not won it, even in between, retired from international football, went on to the finals, missed a penalty. Argentina lost it, and and finally, I think fourth or fifth attempt, he won it. He won it in Qatar last year. So I think it's something that really inspired. That despite whatever you've gone through it, football gives you that opportunity again and again. Sports gives you that. And you need to keep looking forward to it. Obviously, you miss 4 World Cup, you can't cry about it, but you have another opportunity coming in. And that's why you need to put in your best effort. And Messi is, I think, one of the biggest example on that. So with sports, that is the best thing. You have good matches, you have bad matches, but you keep looking for the next match, which is ahead of you. I think you've scored hat trick, you've lost 10-0. I think you need to forget and look for the next match is what I think sports give you that. And that's, I think, in life as well. Whatever you do, I think always you look for challenges ahead.
And ultimately, you hit that winning streak with East Bengal as well, right? Absolutely. So bang on there. All right, now you talked about retirement, so let's talk about your life after retirement. At what point, Baichung, did you decide to call it quits? Now we saw this with Messi, we saw this with Chetri as well. Sunil Chetri also decided to call it quits, but then he came back from retirement. What were the questions you asked yourself that, okay, this is the point, I need to retire?
So as I just said, I think for me the biggest aim and biggest thing for me was to qualify for the Asia Cup, which we had planned for 3-4 years with Mr. Bob Houghton and the team. So once we qualified, then I knew the Asia Cup is in next 1.5 year to 2 years. And I knew I'm going to be 35 by then, and I knew exactly after Asia Cup I'm going to retire. So everything I'd planned it out, saying that what I wanted to do as well. So it's very important. You need to accept your body as well. You need to accept that you can't be the same 18-year-old. And for a lot of players in India, I think it's very important that once you get into those age group, I think you need to also plan post-retirement what you want to do. And as I was planning to, 2 years Asia Cup was there, I was preparing with the team, but I already had in mind that I would start Baichung Bhutia Football School. So 1 year before the retirement, 2010, I started Baichung Bhutia Football School with a few of my friends, and that was on the side. So, and few other things which, which I wanted to do. So those were all planned. So as soon as I retired, I had something to do and look into it, because you don't want to be, till yesterday I was training with my team, and from today I've got nothing to do. I'm just sleeping, and you're trying to see friends and nobody to train with. That's what something I didn't want to go through. So I had things planned, and then suddenly after my retirement, I focused a bit on the football schools and was doing other few things. I also started my own football club called United Sikkim Football Club.
Okay.
So I didn't retire after retiring international. I went on to play for my own club, United Sikkim, which was the second professional club from Northeast to play I-League, which is the highest league then. So I formed the club in 2010. After my retirement, I went into management, plus I was the owner, plus I was a player as well. I brought in a lot of senior players who are playing for India then, Renedy Singh, the other 2-3 friends, Sushil. A lot of these players were also in that age bracket. I requested them, and they came and signed and played for United Sikkim. So within 2 years of time, from just starting a small club in Sikkim, we went on to qualify for I-League, which was, we became 15th biggest club in the country. So that was what I was engaged in. So I didn't, get into those. A lot of players actually after retirement, they get into a lot of, mental thing, depression, have nothing to do. So they've been very active. So I think those things were very planned out for me, and I was very busy even after retirement.
I'm just curious.
But trust me, I played 20 years my professional football, and obviously there's always pressure and there are expectations, which was there. But the amount of pressure and the kind of stress I went through being a owner of a club was 100 times more than just being a player. So that's where I realized I used to always, tell the club's officials, we're not getting these facilities, we're not getting paid this much, you need to do this. We always demanded as a player. Once I became the owner of the club, I could experience how difficult the owners go through it. And a lot of my friends, Rennie D, to a lot of other players who are playing in my team, were demanding what's happening, where's my salary, what is the kind of facilities, training ground you're giving us. There were a lot of challenges in Sikkim then. So you could understand, and the kind of stress and pressure, I think, as a owner was 100 times more than being a player.
Right. But then they would rather listen to it from you than any other owner because you've been in their shoes,
No, but
literally.
again, it was very difficult. I was trying running pillar to post to get sponsors, and obviously we did manage to get some. The unlucky part was when we started United Sikkim Football Club and went on to qualify for the I League. That time, in a big way, the chit funds came into the country. And from nowhere, a lot of this chit funds started sponsoring a lot of the bigger clubs in India. And the players who we were signing for, say, 100 rupees, they went to 1,000, 10,000 rupees directly. So you could not get some of the best players because I did not have that kind of funds. So the best players were all taken by clubs which had chit fund sponsors. So I struggled quite a lot in that. So after 2 years of playing in I League, within 2 years we got relegated because we couldn't compete with that kind of money and that kind of players. And then we played second division for quite some time.
All right, all right. Almost
The
out of time.
timing,
Yeah.
timing in sports is also very, very important. So after a few years, the chit fund, everything shut down. So if I had that kind of budget right now, I think I can still qualify for the I League and ISL maybe. But sometimes you get into wrong timing to form a team and start a team, and then there are a few other things that happens and does not let success happen. So the timing is also very important for anything to succeed.
Yeah, but somehow, Baichung, in your lives, things have always fallen into place.
That's it, yes.
Touch wood, right. All right. Now, we're almost out of time. I'm going to open it up to the audience for questions. I see a couple of hands already. I'll start with you, ma'am. Can we have a question from you, please?
Hi, good evening. It's absolutely, I'm in awe, you know, having you in front and hearing you, such inspiring words from you. And, it's really a fan moment for me. I have a question. There's so much that we've learned from you in terms of the leadership style, whether it's leadership by example, leadership empathy, team, handling, running with the team, making sure you are standing along with your team while, all of the challenges you're facing. In the current context of shaping up the new generation, what are the few of the elements or the policy refinement that you think will really shape up the next generation of footballers and sportsperson in our country? I think we always want to be a sporting nation, but when it comes to the grassroots, families kind of tend to pull back because of the lack of security in multiple ways that a sport doesn't offer. What are few of the things from your viewpoint which you think, if you kind of put across to parents, it would kind of inspire them and look at it a more rational way of, looking at sport? What are the few policies, few transformative aspects that, you think in the current education systems that can really be a radical difference in terms of creating a roadmap for people in next generation?
So now I think in India, the great thing with Indian sports is you've got a lot of leagues happening in different sports. So that's given a lot of opportunities and platform for a lot of players to actually make a career just not playing for India. Like in football, when I first played for India in 1995, when I got a call, my first tournament was Nehru Cup in Calcutta, and I was very young. I was just 18, and the rest of the 10 players who were playing with me were all senior players, and everybody had a job working in railways, somewhere one or two from army, somewhere from bank. A lot of players actually played for India or bigger clubs like East Bengal, Mohun Bagan to get jobs from railways and all that to make their careers safe. So I didn't take that job. I was offered, after playing India, I was offered jobs in different PSUs and all that. So I just wanted to play, be professional and play. And that's what I did throughout my career. And good thing is when I look at the team right now, Indian team, you see all 11 players are professional. Nobody is with job. In fact, today you'll see a lot of players, good players in army and railways, leaving railway jobs and trying to be professional. So that mindset is there because obviously you've got a great opportunity in terms of career-wise. You can be a professional and make a career. I think it's very important for every one of us to really, start, at least if you're not playing as well, start watching sports in your house, when with your kids or something. Because it's very important that we need to create that culture. I think a lot of our generation, we experience, everywhere where I go and speak, I'll always find 4 or 5 people coming after they speak. They'll say, Bachung, I was a great cricketer, I was a great footballer, but my parents did not allow because I had to go and study. And this story is with everywhere I go, every city, every conference I speak, I'll always get 5 to 10 people always saying that I was a good footballer, but my parents did not allow me because the career wasn't there. So now I think you have that. Now you are a parent, I am a parent as well. I think we need to encourage our kids to play sports. There is a good career as well. There is a risk to be taken. Yes, there is challenges still because our education policy, I keep saying it everywhere, our education policies does not really support our children to be sports person because I'm a father right now. My son plays football, but I know how challenging it is for him to really become professional because the amount of time he gets to play, I think is not enough for him to become a world-class footballer or a world-class, my daughter be a world-class swimmer. Because the education policies and education system is so much that it's only about studies and the time they get is very, very less. So I think there has to be changes in that. But I think at least one individual can do is encourage kids to play sports, start watching sports when you're at home instead of watching reality TV, Big Boss or Sasbo program. I think you can start watching some cricket, hockey or football. At least you create that environment with the kids. So once you create that environment, I think you will have kids focusing into sports. And now with any schools, you guys put your kids, please make sure that the school has good sports infrastructure as well. And so that, after school, they have some kind of curriculum to do with sports. And if a kid is talented and has got the talent, is ready to work hard, I think there are a lot of academies in different sports where you should explore and give him that opportunity to become sports person.
2 months before his board exams.
Anyway, now AI is obviously taking all the jobs, I heard, so I think you all should get into sports now.
But 2 months before his ICSE board exams, if your son gets a call,
That's what now, it's such a difficult thing. I went in a train 3 days, 3 nights without reservation. I was like just 15-year-old. And I know my mom and my aunt came and left me there. And those days to get train reservation was getting a lottery for 1 crore. There were no flights, hardly flights. Obviously, you couldn't afford it. There's only Air India or Indian Airlines, those. So railway tickets to get confirmation was like a lottery ticket. I would never allow my kid right now as well to go on a train 3 days, 3 nights without reservation for a camp. I don't think I would allow that. But yes, I would, if he's getting a call for India under 16 or sub-junior India, I would make sure that I would send him and he's there on the camp, on those selection trial in any way. If he has to drop class 10, I'll make sure he drops his class 10. But that has to be for India or an ISL club. But if it's for a school team playing some public school tournament, then drop class 10, that I won't suggest that.
sit back for now. All right, great. Can we have another question from the audience, please?
Hi. So Baichung here. So Shailendra here, Chief Risk Officer of Aditya Birla Sun Life Insurance. And I think some of my questions were answered when you answered to the lady. So that's Atharva, my son. He wants to become a professional footballer. And he's saying, if you trouble me too much in terms of studying, I might either go to the Northeast or to Brazil. So one is I wanted a bit of guidance in terms of how do I ensure that he does both. So I've got a bit of it. Maybe some advice to him. How can he study?
I'm going to promote my own football academy here now. So in fact, we've started Residential Football Academy, which is exactly for a lot of parents and a son like yours, because a lot of kids want to be a footballer and a lot of parents wants to make sure that he doesn't miss his studies. So we've come up with residential football program, so where we've tied up with different schools. So we've taken the school infrastructure in terms of sports facilities and hostel. So the kids come into our residential facilities to become footballer, but daytime they go on to study with that school in that particular boarding school. So that he's not missing his studies and he's also playing football. So my son was in one of my academy in similar kind of thing. So at least you are giving him that opportunity. So you don't want to be like a lot of us, I think, not me, but a lot of you all, always blaming your father. My father did not allow me to become professional footballer. So when he becomes 40, I'm sure you don't want him to blame you that you didn't allow me to become professional. I would have been a good footballer, played for India, but you made me only study. So I think that as a father, I would not want to go through that. So I make sure that if he's interested playing, he's got that passion and hunger to really work hard and have the love and passion for the sport. I encourage that to do with my son. So I think that's what you can at least minimum do, that, encourage, support. And then studies is also taken care, and then football is there as well.
Sure. Thank you. And how do you become a sportsman for life?
Sportsman for life.
For both of us.
I think, you keep playing after retirement. You, as I said, follow sports, watch sports, promote sports. So I think that's how you become. And
Thank
keep
you. Thank
working
you so
hard
much.
and stay healthy.
Thank you so
Baichang,
much.
just
Thanks
one
for
quick
that.
question.
Okay, we can have one more question, please. Yes.
Yeah. So you talked about the fitness at the age of 50, right? I mean, all we understand the right food, exercise, and all those things. The real challenging scenario is the fitness to the kids. The pressure they are going on to, like, let's say my son as well is in Naval Football Club. He's getting trained. The challenge is the type of food he's getting, the fast food, the digital screen he's exposed to, the mental and the physical pressure he's handling. What would be your suggestion in that kind of scenario?
See, I think you should not really pressurize and focus on fitness for the kids till the age of 15, 16. I think the most important part is he has to enjoy playing football. He has to go and learn whatever he's doing. Every training is coming out, he's having fun and he's learning something. Fitness is something at the age of 18, 19, 20. If you've not done fitness as well, fitness is something you can always develop, because that will always come. But the talent is not going to come. If you've not felt the touch, you don't know how to chip the ball, you don't know distance, the coach is going to ask you to chip the ball 50 meters. That has to come naturally, because you've been doing that as a kid from very young age, and you've been doing thousands and thousands of kick every day. So when you've got to kick it, it comes naturally. So those are things I think we will have to focus with our kids. Fitness, I think we should not worry much, because fitness is something, once you reach 18, 19, you've got a lot of, now with technology coming in, fitness trainer there, you can develop that. If you look at Cristiano Ronaldo's career as well, when he was signed by Alex Ferguson from Portugal, Sporting Lisbon to Man U, he was very lanky, thin. He didn't have that muscle. When he came to Man U, I think Alex Ferguson did work with his fitness trainer on his muscles and build up and all that. And he became totally a different player from, once he signed in United. So I think, yes, food I think is very, very important. Junk food, as much as you can avoid, is very good for kid as well as for the parent as well. But if he's going to train and work out once in a while, I think I've seen a lot of great sports person cheating as well on the food, because they're training every day regularly. So it's okay to have once in a while, but regularly all those junk food is not a good idea. But fitness, I think, is something which after the age of 17, 18 as well, you can always develop.
All right, folks. I think that's pretty much all the time we have for the questions.